Under the Ashes. Part 7. The Vengeful Flame. The scene of Arthur's death left everyone present shuddering. There were no signs of a struggle, no weapons, and no evidence that he had used fire to end his own life. Only the sickening, heavy smell of burning hung persistently in the air. The police cordoned off the area for forensics, but all investigative efforts hit a dead end when the preliminary report listed only 2 words: sudden death. Ethan stood off to the side, gripping his camera tightly. He didn't believe it was a natural death. He looked at Arthur's charred hands, then back at the stone ruins, which remained ice-cold and silent, as if no fire had ever burned within it last night. The truth of Arthur's crime had been exposed, but the unease refused to fade. While the forensics team cleared the scene and gathered the antiquities Ethan had discovered in the cellar, they noticed a strange anomaly. A loose stone at the back of the foundation wall was unusually out of place. A young deputy pried it open with a crowbar. Right behind the masonry, a rotting wooden box was revealed. Ethan stepped closer, his heart hammering against his ribs. The wooden box was wrapped securely in a yellowed shroud. When the lid was lifted, it revealed Diana's complete diary, the very one Ethan had only found a charred fragment of earlier. The air seemed to freeze. The police officers fell silent as they looked at the pristine pages, entirely untouched by fire. Trembling, Ethan took the diary. He flipped to the final page where he had previously read the words, "If I die, do not burn me." But now, with the pages complete, he saw that those words were just the beginning. Beneath that sentence lay a large blank space, and on the very last page, a completely different handwriting appeared. It wasn't the delicate script of Diana. It was jagged, scratched out as if the writer had used fingernails to etch it into the paper. It was a sentence that turned the blood of everyone at the scene to ice. A sentence meant for the dead. "It has been 20 years, and you finally returned." The moment Ethan finished reading the line, a sudden whirlwind whipped up, throwing the surrounding ashes into the air and blinding everyone for a split second. And in that fleeting moment, Ethan heard a woman's laughter, a sound both agonizing and liberated, echoing from the distant mountains. Part 8. The Fate of the One Left Behind. The case of Arthur's death was eventually closed with an official conclusion from the investigative agency: sudden death due to extreme psychological shock. The antiquities were handed over to a museum, and the ruins of the smokehouse, by order of local authorities, were completely leveled to erase the horrific memory of the valley's darkest era. Ethan left Mist Valley on a rainy afternoon. He had completed his report, but the headline wasn't "The Haunted Smokehouse" as originally planned. He titled it "The Curse of the Human Heart." The piece didn't just expose Arthur's atrocities. It told the story of a woman who had waited 20 years for an act of penance, right inside the fiery tomb her own husband had built. However, before his car rolled down the final slope out of the valley, Ethan stopped one last time. He looked toward the clearing where the stone structure once stood. Now it was just a barren patch of dark earth. But strangely, despite the relentless downpour, that patch of land remained completely dry. On the ground, the fine streaks of gray ash were not washed away by the rain. Instead, they clustered together, forming the distinct shape of 2 hands intertwined. Ethan opened his bag and pulled out Diana's diary, which he had been permitted to keep as an investigative keepsake. Turning to the final page once more, he noticed the ink looked as though it were still wet, despite days having passed. And what terrified him above all else, right beneath the line, "It has been 20 years, and you've finally returned." A new, tiny line of script had appeared, looking fresh. "And you? When will you finally leave?" Ethan felt a freezing dread wash over him. He threw the diary onto the passenger seat, slammed on the gas, and sped down the slope. In his rearview mirror, he caught a fleeting glimpse of a long-haired woman standing in the rain, her silhouette blending into the mist. She didn't give chase. She merely stood there, watching the car recede, her face fully visible for the first time, showing not hatred, but a strange, profound serenity. For 20 years, the fire had not only consumed flesh but had bound a vow. With Arthur's death, the fire went out, and the curse dissolved with it. But Ethan knew that Mist Valley would forever be a forgotten land, for secrets written in blood and ash never truly fade. They simply hide beneath the soil, waiting for another curious soul to step forward and tell their story. The car vanished behind the mountain ridge, leaving the village of Mist Valley drowned in silence. This time, no smoke rose. There was only the steady patter of rain on the forest leaves, like a sorrowful lullaby for a soul finally set free.